Law. 190. Autonomous Man. Chalcedon Report number 150, February 1978. Autonomous man wants an autonomous universe. The goal is the independence of all things from God and from one another. Of the Renaissance mind of Francis Bacon, Judah Stamfer writes, "When his negotiations are finished, the universe, the world of things, is in business for itself. We will shape, experience, and know it at our pleasure. Let God be circumspect in his complaints." Later, Hobbes and Isaac Newton reduced reality to matter to eternally bouncing mini marbles. Judah Stamfer, Face and Shadow, 1971, pages 61 and 62. In this materialistic realm, God had no real place. Man and the universe were in business for themselves. Instead of God's law, man's law, first of all royal law, later democratic law, is operative. Instead of all life and society under covenant with God, all things were seen instead as a contract between men. The covenant of God with man was set aside and denied in favour of a social contract, the contract of free agents with one another. As a result, civil government and law were grounded on a social basis. They were determined by men, not by God. The social contract led to social justice. Because the foundations of the state and of law are of human ordination, it was logically held that justice also must be of human or social origin. Hence, true justice is seen in this tradition as social justice, socially determined. When, in the first half of the 1970s, then Senator John Tunney of California was confronted by pro-life advocates, he defended abortion as moral because it was legal and the will of the people. He was then asked if theft would be moral if the majority of the people voted its legislation. The senator felt that then theft would be moral. This is the logic of the doctrine of social justice. Justice is what man says it is. Man may be variously defined as elite man, as the dictatorship of the proletariat, as the democratic consensus, or as the majority, or as individual, anarchistic man. In any case, justice is what man says it is. As a result, we have Marxist justice, National Socialistic justice, democratic justice, white justice, red justice, black justice, and so on, all forms of the humanistic definition of righteousness. But this is not all. If justice is social, then injustice and evil are all things which are antisocial. Again, we have a term which can mean anything. Everything from communist propaganda to Christian missions can be called antisocial, depending on who does the defining. I recently heard opposition to abortion and homosexuality described as injustice and as antisocial activity. How far gone this erosion of the doctrine of God's law and justice is appears clearly in the fact that so many churchmen speak of social justice and call any appeal to God's law legalism. Their doctrines of good and evil, and justice and injustice are derived not from God's law, but from man's law and man's doctrines of social justice and anti-social activities. Men may name God and Christ when they talk of social justice, but in reality they worship at alien altars and they worship another God whose name is man. But here is the irony and the built-in disaster of the social contract and its children. When man rejects God in favour of autonomy, he cannot arrest the principle of autonomy. Independence from God is followed by the independence of man from man. Humanism may seek a social order, but it creates an anarchistic state instead. The demand for autonomy from God is followed by a demand for autonomy from all law and morality, and from all men. Everyone has quote-unquote rights to autonomy and to a judgment-free world. Men, women, children, criminals, perverts, all are to be autonomous, free from all controls and judgments. Some have even proposed the autonomous nature and, quote, rights, end quote, of trees and wildlife. But autonomy is an illusory dream for the creature. He is absolutely the creature of God, and his life is one of dependence and interdependence. The fulfillment of man's dream of autonomy is death and hell. The dead in a cemetery are the only people who are in any sense autonomous and independent from the world around them. Social justice, finally, means anarchism and death. The only alternative to social justice is God's justice, or, in brief, God's law. In Scripture, righteousness and justice are the same word in meaning. God's law is true justice or righteousness. If men will not build on faith and on the obedience of faith to the law of God, they build only for disaster. Social justice holds that man the sinner can define right and wrong and can set forth the meaning of justice. This is like asking a mule to be fertile or appointing a prostitute to be the guardian of virtue. Every doctrine of justice set forth by man the sinner will be an attempt to present sin as a virtue and lawlessness as law. Social justice does not exist. It is a myth. Every effort to achieve social justice instead increases injustice because it enacts an illusion and an evil. God's law, however, works to effect restitution and restoration, and it stresses responsibility. It does not express man, rather it governs, guides and protects man in terms of God's calling and purpose. Men who move in terms of God's law are not guided by the social consensus, nor by the majority. For them, God, not man, is the author of possibilities, and they move in terms of God's calling. Stamford tells a delightful story of a relative, an immigrant fresh from Poland, who was at once employed in his first sweatshop job in the garment industry. After half an hour, he asked the next stitcher in Yiddish, "Please, exactly how much money will buy this entire establishment?" We need Christians with the same sense of confidence in God's possibilities. What God commands and requires is much more easily attained than that immigrant's dream. All things shall be brought into captivity to Jesus Christ, men and nations, the arts and the sciences. The only question we face is this: will we be part of that victorious army, or one of the defeated?